Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be speaking with you all today and sharing more about how you can foster collaboration in your team, why notebooks can be a great interface for data teams to work together, and share how that aligns with what we're building at Deepnote. This year's theme of Connect Reimagine is flux and how everything around us is evolving. I want to talk about how the world of data and data science is changing too. Data science is no longer a discipline that's only reserved for people with a special background or a special skill set. I believe that the future of data and data science is collaborative. And there are multiple forces in play here. The first and most obvious trend is that organizations are realizing how data can drive value, and they are upskilling their workforce, they are scaling their data capabilities to be able to leverage that. And we see this outside of the industry as well. Organizations are reorienting to data-first companies, and public institutions are opening their data to support data democratization. They want to allow people to tap into data and identify new opportunities and new solutions. So in line with that, the second trend we're seeing is the rise of the citizen data scientist. Who the citizen data scientist is someone who, even though they might not have a formal data science training, they have more accessibility to data. And with increasing availability and accessibility, there's a lot more curiosity on how to actually use that data. So even though I might be a customer success manager, a marketer, a salesperson, I can now use data to my advantage in my role and do my job better. But to support citizen data scientists, we on one hand need tools that allow anyone to access data without barriers easily. But on the other hand, we also need tools that help us think, reason, analyze the data, and extract insights without a gatekeeper and without the help of others. The last trend is COVID. With the rise of COVID, our work lives are now moving remote, and many organizations are heading into a remote first or a hybrid setup. And we need interfaces that not only allow us to access data, but also interfaces that allow us to collaborate. And this leads to a bunch of big questions. Questions like, how can we make data more accessible and understandable? How can we facilitate conversation around data and around insights? And how can we help teams collaborate better? Answering these questions is why I joined Deepnote and why I'm really excited to show you what we are building today. A bit about myself. I'm Elizabeth, a product manager at Deepnote. We are a startup building a collaborative data science notebook. In my previous life, I was a consultant, and this is where I first felt the pain of how hard it can be for teams to work together around data in a collaborative manner. So I want to tell you a bit of a story of how I actually got into this problem. So you all probably know this visualization. This is the theory of a data science process or data science problem-solving cycle, where you go from definition of a problem statement to getting the data, building a minimum viable product around a solution or a hypothesis that you have, then deploying the model, enhancing it, sustaining it, and kind of building on the top of it. I actually had quite a different experience there. On one particular project, my role was to work with a big insurance client. And anytime someone asked a question about data, something fairly simple like, what were our sales last year across all regions? They were told to go to Nick. And Nick was this data scientist at this client. He was a data and statistics mastermind. He had a PhD and he was owning all the data in this organization. But instead of this nice iterative way of working, this is what I experienced. This is a much different image. So it actually took days to even get to proper data for a fairly simple question like what were our sales. It took multiple days to shape up the data request. I got something incomplete with a bunch of CSV files. I had to cross-compare, understand those, build another and another data request. When I finally received that, I built an MVP of the analysis that I checked with Nick through like a bunch of emails, Slack messages. We worked in different time zones, so it was quite a pain to kind of get something working. And when we got to a working version and actually got to recommendations, we then brought these into the client, we built them into a PowerPoint deck, we shared those with the client. And what do you think happened? We got a bunch of questions back. This is black box. What are the assumptions you used? What if we look at this different cut of data and what is the underlying data used? What is driving this peak that I'm seeing on the graph? The clients were not able to see the logic behind our analysis. And this, again, like led to reiterating this full cycle again, losing valuable cycle time and actually preventing us from capturing more value-adding questions and opportunities. I sincerely hope this sounds like a horror story for most of you, but actually the fact is that a version of this story is a reality for many teams and organizations. They might be more mature, there might be multiple NICs, but this is often the case. And most organizations I meet today do struggle with making their data accessible, transparent, and usable for other people in the company. Data science teams struggle to have a good collaborative flow with their teams. And this is where Deepnote comes in. So Deepnote is a collaborative data science notebook. And just let's break that down. Notebook is an old paradigm. So notebooks have been around for 30 plus years. And most of you probably know the most common implementation, which is the open source standard called Jupyter Notebook. So this is the paradigm, and this is what the interface looks like. You have text that gives context to your analysis. You have SQL queries that you use to query the data and to sort of come up with a data set, data scope. Then you have some code to build in the logic, you have visualizations, and traditionally, this is well suited for exploratory programming, for prototyping rapidly, coming up with the answers on the go and iterating. And at Deepnote, we love the notebook paradigm because we think it's really useful for teams to have a productive, explainable conversation around data. You can see your source and the logic in one place. You can rapidly explore, visualize your data, and iterate on your findings. But with Deepnote, we feel like we need to bring this concept to the 21st century. And we build on the concept of notebooks using 3 pillars. First, we have easy setup and sharing. So instead of having to worry about deploying notebooks locally and having to worry about provisioning your own hardware, you can start a notebook from your browser in 3 seconds. There's no setup or engineering needed. Second, we help you with real-time and asynchronous collaboration. So you can literally think about it as Google Doc or Figma meets notebooks. We can work on the same problem at the same time in a collaborative environment, or work asynchronously and share feedback via comments. And last, Deepnote plays really well with the rest of your stack. So we don't just want to build another tool that lives in isolation, but if you're a data scientist or a team working together, it's really important for us that you can use Deepnote as a part of your normal workflow and that it fits seamlessly. So rather than telling you, let me show you. All right, so now I'm going to do a quick demo to show you how these concepts of collaboration and integrations actually manifest themselves in the product. So right now I'm on the Deepnote website, and I'm just going to log in using my Google credentials. So let's do that. And my dashboard opens up. So this is where I have multiple workspaces from the different teams I work with. But in this session, I want to work on the financial analysis that I'm working on with my colleague, Jan. So let's open it up. Jan has actually been working on this. So when I open it up, I can see that he is in the notebook right now. I see his cursor, but I see he's not making any changes. So he's idle, and I can just take over and do whatever I need to do. So let's take a look at the notebook itself. This is exploring financial data. And for those of you that know the concept of notebooks, this will be very familiar. So I have some markdown here where I can just write some comments to give context to my analysis. So I'm going to say the company name to run the analysis yourself in the cell below, render that, awesome. Then I have a company name that I can input. So I'm going to try this for Facebook. Perfect. And I'm just going to run this SQL query. And while that's running, you can see that this is actually tapping into a data source that has been connected, and I can choose to tap into different data sets. And my output will be saved into a data frame variable that I can then later explore in my Python analysis. I got some nice outputs on the preview, so I can actually see this. There are different submissions from Facebook at different values for a certain period end dates. So I can see all the attributes over here, and Deepnote gives me some nice visualizations already, so I can have a better gist of my data more quickly. Perfect. So let's actually limit this to 30 and just rerun the query. And I should be able to save the output into this variable called dataframe1. So let's actually run this. Awesome. And I got the same output. One benefit of this collaboration feature is not only that I can work with Jan in a collaborative manner in real time or through comments. Actually, the analysis that we're working on is fully reproducible by anyone that we share this document with. So you could see that there was a dataset connected. So if I go into integrations, I'm tapping into this GCP public dataset. That means that if Jan connects it, I get it too. I can tap into the same packages that he's installed. You see there's a Docker file baked in. So we actually, any environment configurations that he's made, he can be sure that those environment configurations are mirrored on my side also. Perfect. So let's go back into the notebook and actually take a look at what I should be doing here. So Jan is asking me to visualize this data frame. So I can do that via using Plotly or Seaborn, but instead I'm going to use the Deepnote visualizations. So I'm going to open a block, create a new block where I can choose different types. I'm going to go with a chart. And here I'm going to visualize this data frame 1. And let's look at the different submissions that Facebook has made and their values. So let's take a look at the measure tags and do a value. Awesome. And here I can just tinker with this. I can group the bins, aggregate them, choose different colors. But this is a good first start. So I'm just going to tell Jan that I've done this. Awesome. Post it, resolve. Great. And the last thing I want to do is I can actually push and commit these changes into my GitHub to make sure that our team repository mirrors whatever is happening in my Deepnote notebook. I can do that here just by pressing this button. I can also take a look at, if I don't use GitHub, I can use our inbuilt versioning. So I can take a look at the history tab, and I can, for example, restore a past version of the notebook before Jan started making any changes. I can also take a look at what he's done in the past. So I can compare what happened on Wednesday with the current version and see some of the changes that have been made in the meantime. Great. The last thing I'm going to do is share this with our manager, Jakub. So I'm going to head into the share tooltip. Over here, click Manage Collaborators, and I'm going to add Jakub. I want to give him comment rights. I don't want him to be an admin and make changes to the project. I just want him to have exposure to the project, see what we're working on, and be able to provide comments in the meantime. So I'm going to add him as a collaborator. Great. And the last thing is, because this data set is actually being updated, I want to make sure that whoever enters this notebook always has the most recent data set underneath. So I'm going to schedule this notebook to run even when I'm not online. So I'm going to go into the schedule tab over here, and I'm going to schedule it on. And let's actually schedule it to run weekly. Let's say at 8 a.m. Great, prac time is fine. And I'm going to select it to run every Monday and save schedule. And this way I can be sure that the changes in the dataset will be reflected and the analysis will be rerun automatically. Awesome, and that's it for today. So I hope this demo gave you a better idea of where we're moving to and how this vision I outlined of more collaborative and inclusive data science manifest itself in the product. And this is actually quite intuitive for you as technologists, engineers, coders. Notebooks lend themselves to explainable, understandable analysis and models. But it's actually also intuitive for newbies to data science, for data science teams, people working with business stakeholders. And so ultimately, our mission is to make this world a past. This is the world where data science process is something that happens on the sidelines in isolation. Data scientists is working in an ivory tower, often not giving their work exposure that it deserves. And the end consumers and users of those analyses and results are often just brought in towards the end. And as a result, teams often miss out on opportunities that would enrich their products or service. With Deepnote, this is where we want to move to. We want to build a much more collaborative process around data and analysis. We want stakeholders to be involved in all along from the beginning to an end, be able to share their progress, view the analysis that they're happening, chip in with their insights. This leads to quicker iterative cycles, to faster time to insights, faster time to market, and more engagement. And ultimately, we believe that this leads to better products and better business outcomes. So if you're also excited about this mission that I just outlined, and you would love to take Deepnote for a spin, please do. Deepnote is available for free at deepnote.com. You can just also explore some of the awesome things that our community has been building at deepnote.com/explore. You can just use your Google or GitHub account to sign in and test it out. I would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. And with this, I'm opening up to the questions. Thank you so much for your attention.